So how can you get evidence of change from something other than fossils? The next few sections are going to focus on that essential question. Darwin's voyage to the Galapagos Islands provided many insights into evolution. Darwin gets his own section because he did the bulk of the work for the theory of evolution. Charles Darwin was an English naturalist. He was supposed to be a doctor. He studied medicine, but he didn't like the blood. So he quit medical school and he went to theology school to go become a pastor or whatever. But he wasn't good at that either. And so this chance came to sail around the world. So he sailed around the world for 5 years, and the bulk of that time he spent at the Galapagos Islands, the little chain of islands off of the coast of South America. And he observed, documented different forms of life, their habits, and their physical structures. Your ad puzzle this week is about Charles Darwin, so you'll learn a lot more details about his time on the Beagle, which is the ship that sailed around the world that he was on. The Galapagos Island, he chose them, well, because they were on his route, but the bulk of his studies came from the Galapagos Islands because of the diversity of animals found on them. There's a lot of different animals and plants and insects found on the Galapagos Island that he couldn't find anywhere else. After his time on the island, he spent 20 years analyzing and organizing his evidence before publishing his ideas, and he waited 20 years because he knew that most people would not believe him. His ideas would go against the common beliefs of his time. Alfred Russel Wallace. Here's your slide, Christopher. He was a younger scientist that came along. He studied the same things as Darwin, and he came up with the same idea. He actually wrote a letter to Darwin asking him his opinion on his findings, and Darwin realized he was going to get scooped. So after holding on to his findings for 20 years, Darwin couldn't let another scientist publish before him. So he sent his book in for publication. It's called On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, which is a mouthful, so we just call it The Origin of Species. From these men, evolution is based on these main concepts: variation, adaptation, and natural selection. And there's a little crash course video there if you'd like to learn more about Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace's interaction. But we're going to talk about variation and adaptation as concepts today, and then next week, the whole section is about natural selection. But you have to know about variation and adaptation before you go into natural selection. Variation, the definition, is the difference in physical traits among organisms of the same species. So on the top right, you have a group of humans. Humans are all the same species, yet they are different. They have different hair color, eye color, skin color, height, personalities, and all of those differences are called variation. Now, when we talk about evolution, those traits must be heritable or be able to pass on to offspring. Like I said, if you dye your hair blue, that is an acquired trait, not a heritable trait. It's your original hair color that will get passed on to offspring. We can also talk about cats as an example. They have different fur colors, different eye colors. They're different sizes. You have calico cats that you would take into your home, and then you have big tigers and panthers that live out in the jungle. They're both cats. They're part of the same species, but there are differences among them. Why is variation important? Variation among a species ensures that if an environment suddenly changes, floods, fires, hurricanes, viruses, at least some of its members will survive. I don't know how many of you have seen the movie I Am Legend, but it's from, it's from like 10 years ago. It's a really good movie. If we were in class, we'd watch it, but can't watch it if we're not in class. But you guys can go watch it. The premise is a virus sweeps through the human civilization, and scientists come up with a vaccine for this virus. Sound familiar? And the virus actually turns 99% of these humans that took it into zombies. So now there's this zombie outbreak. Well, in the end, there is a group of survivors, and these survivors were somehow immune to becoming a zombie. Something in their blood made them special. Something in their blood helped them survive the zombie apocalypse. And that is variation. Their blood was different from the rest of the human species that helped them survive. And now that small band of survivors are going to be the ones to repopulate the earth with humans. So the humans going forward will all have that gene that saved them from becoming a zombie. That is evolution at its core. Variation ensures that if an environment suddenly changes for any reason, at least some of its members will survive. And adaptations is the other concept that evolution is based on. Not adaption, people always spell it wrong, adaptation. It's a feature or structure that allows an organism to better survive in its environment. That's it, it's very simple. Darwin's many discoveries about animals and their habitats led him to realize that these animals somehow adapted to their different environments. So let's talk about the pictures really quick in the chat. On the left is a kind of lizard thing. What do you think a feature of his is, or a structure that helps him survive? Anybody want to take a guess? Can you see him? That's a hint. The lizard on the picture in the left. What does he have? This guy. What does he have that helps him survive? Camouflage, good. Yep. That is his adaptation. What about in the middle, the Finding Nemo? That big fish is called an anglerfish. They have a light to help them lure the prey. Yeah. So the light is the adaptation and luring the prey is the function, is the purpose. What else does he have when you look at him? Anybody else? He has really large teeth. Yeah. Sharp teeth to tear his prey apart. Good. And then giraffes on the right. What is their main adaptation? The long necks. Why? Why do they need long necks? Or why are long necks useful? To reach trees, yeah. Food, to eat. Good. To eat leaves. All right, so those are 3 examples, and you guys are going to continue that as your assignment for this section. So end of notes assignment. At the end of your notes, keep it on the same paper. For the rest of the slides, yes, all of them. There's, I don't know, 8 of them. There's not a lot of them. But you're going to choose an adaptation for each animal that you see or that you know, and state how those adaptations help the animal survive. And these are the kind of questions that are going to be on your quizzes this week. So this is to prepare you for your quizzes. So we'll do the first one together. Like we said, an adaptation is a feature or structure that allows an organism to better survive in its environment. That guy is called the star-nosed mole for obvious reasons. What do you think his adaptations are? He has 2 main ones that you can see. The nose. What do you think the nose helps him do? What makes his nose special? What makes it an adaptation, a feature that helps him survive? His fingers or his nails, his claws. Yep, that's the other one. But now you got to tell me why. What does he do with his claws or his nails? What does he do with his nose? What's the purpose? So he digs with his claws. Good. What about his nose? What does he do with his nose? What do you guys do with your noses? Yeah, to smell food. They're really, really sensitive, so they sense vibrations too. Sniffs. You can see he doesn't really have developed eyes, so he uses that nose for everything. So that's what you do. Star-nosed mole. He has a specialized nose to find food and his claws for either defense or to dig its home.